So anyway, with that, before we bring Wolf on and talk about the semifinals, I thought it might be interesting to address the rumor of Hansama going to G2, which I think is a bit of a surprise. And this is like one of the first moves that they would have made without Carlos. And especially with Neon being a free agent this year, I'm a bit shocked that this would be.
By the way, wait, you cover the mic when you do your hand.
Oh,
anyway.
sorry.
Yeah, there you go. Well, the key, I can actually give you some juice here because
all right,
statute of limitations is gone. So the story last year was that G2 was considering getting Hansama for the bot lane, right? But here's the thing. When I say considering, they were like one of the teams inquiring about it. But as people will know, they were already doing the scrims and stuff with like Flacked when Worlds was going on because they had that like European super team and also G2 was doing scrims anyway. And what I heard was this. Are you ready for a fucking gem? You remember how everyone treated Carlos like a piece of shit, immoral actor because he wouldn't sell like his best players to his rival teams?
Right.
I heard Rogue basically just put the kibosh on the Hansama move and said, we're not selling him to anyone in Europe, only LCS. And that's the reason why he ended up on Team Liquid for millions and millions. So spoiler, are you ready, guys? Woo, this might blow your mind. Maybe Hansama wanted to go to G2 and be on a super team and go to Worlds and all that. But you know what? It was Rogue, not, from what I've heard, not Carlos being evil. Carlos was trying to bring Hansama in. So instead, Rogue refused to sell to a rival team in LEC and then sold him for mega bucks to NA. And I've heard, like, also, you can imagine what, like, the buyout was like, etc. It was bonkers. And then on top of that, and here's a fucking banger for you, but because they aren't smart like Carlos and didn't have a clause built back in, he could do what Perks couldn't. Remember, Perks tried to just skip right back over the pond and go to Fnatic, but then turned out Carlos was one step ahead again, and he had the little booby trap set for your Home Alone style, didn't he? Well, it turns out Rogue didn't have that. So you know what? Surprise, surprise, Hansama can just go to G2 now, especially because they've done that mad thing where Team Liquid, like, have actually TSM sword arted themselves and paid the guy millions and then just gone like, just keep all the money but don't even play out the contract. Like, these guys, by the way, then go and sit on panels and go like, I'm up for Executive of the Year. I'm a genius for what I do with money. Like, no, I'm glad you're all getting your budget slashed. You fucking clowns. You don't know what you're doing. Like, it's one thing, mate, you've actually managed to, like, voluntarily implement stupid, like, NBA style contracts where you just get all the money no matter what. Like, you are aware, someone like Hansama, it's not like that was the deciding factor that you had to, like, agree to pay it all up. So I don't even get that. But I just thought it was a bit spicy on that angle because it was implied to me, like, maybe LCS wasn't Hansama's first destination, which, by the way, if you think about it, Monte, his game sure turned to ass when he went to the LCS, didn't he? It's weird how that works out. Everyone loved, I noticed, to bag on Perks all the year long. Now, here's what Perks did when he went to the LCS. Right, they did quite well in that lock-in tournament. They won a split. Yep. They made Worlds, got out the hardest group ever, and they made top 8. By the way, NA fans, how would you like a team that could make top 8 at Worlds? It'd be pretty fucking banging, wouldn't it? But that was called, I was told, a failure. And we needed threads, Perks, accountability thread. Where's Hansama? Why are you all still riding with Hansama? By that logic, by the way, he's trash, homie. He did nothing. And not on top of that, it's implied for me, maybe he didn't even want to be there. Maybe he was only there for money. By the way, probably the worst motivating factor I've ever discovered in life. Not just for myself, for most people. It's just a myth. It's some out of the movies that you're really thinking about. No one really has the dollar signs in their eyes. It's not a real thing. So I actually found that move quite interesting in that sense because it's implied to me, maybe G2 was where he wanted to be all along, mate. Spoiler, I'm pretty sure most players in Europe, if they're on a team that isn't winning, would be like, can I play with Caps, please? That seems like the obvious move. And G2's known to be one of the teams that can pay you mega bucks salaries. So to me, it's like a slam dunk for Hansama. The angle for me is, though, like, this is where I'll throw this in as well. Remember, little detail you're all going to forget. Who is the general manager / the guy who does the trades in G2? Do you know, Monte?
No, I don't.
It's Romain Bigade, who is French.
Romain. Yeah.
Oh, that's convenient. Someone French is overrating Hansama on a down year. Fucking hell. Whoa, what's that? Like a spot of Bigfoot or something? Like, give me a break. Yeah, on Halloween, they're fucking everywhere, aren't they? So that's already, for me, it's just obvious as to why they're doing this move. A lot of people think they can get ahead of the narrative that, like, obviously he was bad last year, but we assume if he's on a good team, he'll be really good again. So it's an obvious, like, buy low type scenario where you probably get him way cheaper also than he would have come for last year. I don't hate underrated as a move. I will say though, like it does make me wonder, bearing in mind the only moves we've heard about is Flackhead and Jankos are going out of the team. And it was already announced by Jankos himself that he's leaving. That makes me wonder, by the way, this is a bit of an implication. Since y'all were telling me Hans Sama's like the best AD, you do realise, guys, that implies that if they keep him Broken Blade, he's a weak side ADC.
Yep.
By the way, there's no weak side ADC in history is the best player ever. I don't give a fuck what any Prey fan says. There's a reason you're the weak side, homie, and that someone like Uzi Eyes like, that's weird. I don't play my game this way. So all I'm saying is like that. There's a lot of weird implications in this move. Actually, it's not as simple as just like Hans Sama to G2.
Well, I mean, and I agree with a lot of what you said, probably about his motivation, and I think that team was just very dysfunctional, which probably caused an increased loss of motivation once he arrived, because it is rather shocking considering he had an excellent performance at Worlds last year, like really, really, really good, and then coming into this year and falling off a cliff. Now, I have to assume that given his career, this was just an off year, an unmotivated year perhaps. Who knows if there were other issues or he was struggling with integrating into the team, because it looked like no one ever really got integrated in that team and they never really had their own style on Team Liquid. So I think this, I mean, on paper, it could be very strong. And I guess because he's a free agent, maybe you just take him instead of Neon. But I would have thought that, Neon would be a perfectly good ADC for this roster. I hope it just seems like Hans Sama's more of a risk right now because of his recent form. But if you think you can get him back into shape, then perhaps it's a good move. I think it's really interesting to have him with Targamas, considering the excellent year that Targamas had and the potential of that bot lane. And like you said, the integration with Caps as well could be fascinating. I'm a bit surprised to hear about the Jankos stuff as well, because I thought overall Jankos had quite a good year. I'm curious which direction they're going to be going for a jungler in that case, because I thought Jankos' style was quite complementary and he has a long history of synergy with Caps, and I didn't perceive that he was really the problem on G2.
I think that is a terrible move. Like, hands down, there is not a single reason I can think that because here's the problem. They're not doing that move as in we're letting Caps explore his, Jankos rather, explore his options. And, basically it's like, let's negotiate in the off season. We've got a short list of people. Here's the logic. Maybe you're not number one. Like, for example, maybe number one's Elyoya or something. They're going to break the bank. But my problem with that move is, spoiler, one, if Carlos isn't there, someone else at G2 learned how to poach pretty well. Because either they have got the next jungler lined up. That should be impossible. Or, even better, and this is mental, they haven't got the next jungler. By the way, if the latter is the case and they haven't got the next jungler poach style, like ready to sign on day one of off-season, then in my opinion, this is a ridiculous gamble to take. Because in this scenario, like it certainly was not implied that Jankos wanted to leave. So I actually think, I don't like that. That's one of the worst examples, unless you literally know basically through winked and wink and a nudge that Elyoya is joining. I think it's insane to gamble a bird in the hand for two in the bush, as it were. Like, because the thing about people like Jankos is the flaw is just too good. They're never going to be like the fucking sixth best jungler in the LEC. Like, worst case scenario is going to be what, like the third best jungler or something. Like, you really cannot, aside from if you just keep him, buy like that sort of a guarantee. So I think it's a real massive gamble. And also, that's the part I don't get. To me, you just do the Flackhead move. Like, if you get him out and you really believe Hans Sama's an upgrade, I think Prime Hans Sama would be. Then why do you need anything else in the team? Like, it's amazing to me the idea that jungle is a position you would think they're changing.
Yeah, and especially because
and he was the leader and the captain, for fuck's sake. In the comms, he was basically the leader of the team.
I mean, the only thing you have to assume is that Caps pushed him out, right? Like, there was
That's not impossible, sure.
I mean, what else would it be? Like, he's the bedrock of this team. There's nothing in his performance that would indicate that that he should be removed. So it must be Caps saying like, "Hey, I want a new jungler to work with me," and G2 saying, "Yes." It's literally the only thing that I can. I mean, maybe Dylan, the coach, but I don't know. It doesn't strike me as a move that he would make, and it just seems like, why would you break up this duo? And like you say, maybe they already have like a buyout plan for Elyoya. Is Elyoya a free agent this year?
I'm not sure. I'll look it up. The other thing I would also say as well is, if you think about it, on their team, dude, you've also just kicked out all of the fucking funny people in the team that were the whole brand. Flackhead and Jankos were the ones who did all the memes. Like, Caps is like in the middle. He needs someone to play off. And Broken Blade's like okay on stream, I guess, but he's not really like a mad joker outside of the comms or whatever. So I even think for the brand, it's a weird move.
His contract expires at the end of next year, so he would have to be bought out right now, which means
I mean, the
G2
problem with that is, so, like, Mad Lions thus far have not proven to be a team that can't do buyouts, though.
I mean,
Mad Lions and Rogue, as far
sure.
as I can tell, everyone's for sale. Just how much you win
they'll
the
sell
day.
him for sure.
Oh, by the way,
Mad
there's the bigger move
everyone
to
is for
talk
sale.
about. Should we talk about the real move?
Odoamne?
I'm not going to drop too much, but I'll just say this. As far as I know, they absolutely don't want him in this team, and that's why this move is happening. And it isn't some shit like everyone's going to think, oh, it was just some... No. As far as I know, it's just ego from the fucking management. And no, before you all go, those bloody coy guys coming in. No, I've heard it's the Rogue people. So, and all I'll say is this. I've said, look, I've always thought that was the one part about the Rogue equation never added up for me, is one of the main management people there is that guy Fly, right? And look, he might be a flatterer to me and be nice to me, but homie, that power doesn't work on me if no one's noticed. And all I'll say is this guy has a fucking million shady stories following him from the Rock Hat days to all those different lineups to all the rest of it. Mate, the amount of orgs that hate this guy. This is one of the only people ever, by the way, that people who've been co-hosts of mine have fucking blacklisted to come on talk shows, and I had to have him on my other talk shows. He doesn't even know any of this stuff. Well, he must know something if he's fucking been on the scene that long. So all I'll say is this: I take this as a pure ego move, mate. And I'm just saying, just wait for what this lineup's going to look like. It's going to be a worse lineup, and in my opinion, they have absolutely taken what should have been one of the most slam dunk, take the same 5 players into next year, just do one more year, and they've just blown it completely. Like, this is mental to me. I can't possibly think how this is a good move. Like, is there anyone else who at the end of Worlds was like, well, I'd never want to see that 5-man lineup play another LEC? What are you talking about? They just had the best split ever, after the best year ever, after a top 8 performance. It was like, you want to run that one back, for fuck's sake. This isn't when you're like, oh, better cut someone just for the sake of cutting them. Why would you change anyone in that lineup? It's a banger roster.
Yeah, I mean, I think the roster is really good. I think Odoamne was extremely good in the...
Another captain of the team
playoff.
as well, by the way. Notice how you're all just kicking all the culture people in your fucking teams. Some people don't. Another player with insane flaws, well, give me a break.
Yeah, I mean, look, as far as the Rogue management is concerned, I mean, they've made a lot of moves that have been surprising in the past. Obviously, like switching up for Malrong and identifying that talent was successful, and it drove Rogue into their first title. But
here's the thing: getting him but just selling Inspired was just making money, mate. Like that wasn't a good move on its face, It just turned out to be a good gamble in the end because of what they got with Malrong.
Yeah. Yeah, that is somewhat confirmation bias, to be sure, because they had to find a jungler, but credit to them and their scouting. But I do think Fly and the Rogue management have, like, over time, slowly built up this Rogue roster. And in theory, I would think they would have more money with the Koi merger now in order to make some moves. I don't know. Maybe there's a possibility they're getting a Korean top laner as well to work with Malrong. Like, Malrong could have, worked his connections in the Korean scene. I have no idea who they're going to be picking up. But yeah, I think it's surprising. And as for Odoamne, it leaves a really, big piece on the market. As you were saying earlier about G2, it's not that Broken Blade has performed badly, but if you want to shift into more of an ADC-focused lineup and you want to bring Hansama on, it might not be a terrible idea for G2 to go after Odoamne as well. Like, he's such a useful piece on teams because, like you said, his floor is so high that he's so consistent, and you know exactly what he is, and he doesn't try to be something that he's not, that you can really build a lot of stable rosters around him. And I would think a guy like Dylan Falco would probably really like that on G2. So I have no idea where he's going. It's very interesting. It's definitely not the move I would have made. And
this is why I think GMs suck in LEC, because let me just build a roster for you right now with players that are available. Right, so I've got top lane Odoamne, then I'm going to have Jankos jungle. They'd even played together and been semi-finals of Worlds, by the way, guys. So I've got those two. Got Neon as my ADC. Mate, I've already got a fucking playoff team already. I haven't even put 2 other players. You can put any 2 humans at fucking support and mid lane, and we've already got a team. And that's before we even get there's good mid laners out there. There's like quality players you can sign. By the way, Vethio isn't in a team yet either.
There you go.
I've heard he might be going to a big squad though. I've heard some fucking rumours there. By the way, are you ready? Here's a little banger for you. I've even heard behind the scenes, just to absolutely drop the fucking hammer on these motherfuckers, I've even heard that Rogue has inquired about potentially moving Larssen on a bunch of splits in a row. There's the mic drop. So there's your fucking heroes there, mate. The point there, as far as I can tell, is they just couldn't find buyers, Monty. These are people who are like actively trying to fuck their own careers up. The joke is, like, the universe saved them by not giving them the right buyer for Larssen, so they had to trip over and win a bloody LEC title. Give me a break. What I love about losers in life is they'll always find a way to lose, guys. They can have success at one point, but they'll find their way to the bottom eventually.
Look, man, you never know what the dictates of Rogue ownership was at the time. Like, they could have been in a similar position to Mad Lions, where it's like, next man up. We're going to take the money when we can get it. It helps fund our roster if we can raise these rookies. I mean, they basically become like a rookie mill, right, to sell off later on. And I'm not saying Rogue was that way, but the mandate from ownership may well have changed, is my point. And that it could be that they want to spend big and get some big free agents or something like that. So maybe they wouldn't be looking to sell Larssen now. Maybe they were just shopping around to see if they could find the right buyer for the right price. And if nothing came up, okay, we'll keep him. I don't know what the motivation behind that would have been. But possible with the new Koi money, big investment. They may have completely changed their strategy, because while they've said that the management is remaining the same, what those managers are told about the goals of the team could be quite different now. I mean, it's going to be the same thing probably with FlyQuest.
Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.